A Super Bowl-style NRL grand final could hit the road from 2023 after it was announced the spectacle would stay at its traditional home of Sydney, but for this year only. Australian Rugby League Commission Chair Peter V'landys has declared the game's future is in the hands of the highest bidder. Alyssa Smith reports.
From tradition to evolution. Since 1908, the NRL Grand Final has been held in Sydney except for 2021, when it played out at Suncorp Stadium in Brisbane due to Sydney's COVID lockdown. After a recent fallout between the NRL and New South Wales government, the decision to award Sydney the 2022 Grand Final came down to the 11th hour.
Look, this ultimately came down to financial agreements with the NRL and the New South Wales government. And the New South Wales government getting to a point where it was satisfactory enough for the NRL to keep the grand final in Sydney, because there was a lot of incentive to going to Queensland.
New South Wales was set to continue the tradition and host the spectacle until 2042, but that deal was never struck. Now, after the New South Wales government backflipped on a promised $800 million suburban grounds upgrade of complexes, including Brookvale Oval, Leichhardt Oval, Penrith Stadium and Shark Park, that deal has capitulated.
That's what the NRL wanted. They wanted to give New South Wales 20 years of the grand final here in Sydney, but because of the backflip on funding in relation to suburban stadiums, the NRL scrapped that offer. And it now leads to this situation that we could see a caravan of grand finals.
Dom is a very good premier. He's a very good human being. But don't have a bet with him, because if you win, he won't pay you.
Australian Rugby League Commission Chair Peter V'landys was disgruntled with the New South Wales Premier's reasoning for government's backdown, said to be due to the ARLC's push for funding was taking away from aiding flood victims.
In terms of the government funding of the suburban grounds that has disappeared, and the government using the flood victims as their piece to just make it look bad for rugby league, when the government had $120 billion as an infrastructure spend figure. The $300 million doesn't seem like much.
It's a decision that could see the format of the game change forever.
It opens the door for a Super Bowl type concept, or who can ever give us the best deal for the game.
A concept where any city can bid to host a decider with locations locked in up to 3 to 5 years in advance.
Surely the grand final can only be in Queensland or New South Wales. I don't think I'd like to see us playing a grand final in Perth because they were the highest bidder.
New South Wales was the highest bidder this time around, but as for next year, we can expect the game to evolve. Alyssa Smith, Sky News.